Let me share my screen. I just asked for free. Oh. It says it's not even letting me ask. It's just saying no.
All participants, hold on. All participants can share.
Okay. Wonderful. And you guys
Oh,
can
I
see
love
me.
this already. Already the vibe of the PowerPoint feels calming and relaxing.
Oh, I'm so glad. And yeah, let me just get all my screens set up. I I do like to flow with which is really the essence of feng shui, right? We'll have the structure and then we'll flow where we go. And so please um pause me and ask questions because I really feel like this work is so powerful and it can really be personal. So I'm Elizabeth for, I guess, Susan. I'm meeting you for the first time. And I really got into this work. I just wanted to share like my why before I dive in is feng shui really was my journey back into my feminine essence. I was very much in my masculine with management consulting and leadership coaching and for over 15 years. And I was just kind of doing the thing that I was told to do. I went to the good school, I got the good job, I climbed the corporate ladder, and I was driven and strategic and constantly achieving. And I feel like it's really, when I got to the top of my career, was actually my personal rock bottom of really like starting to question what's it all for. And I also was in consulting with the Department of Defense and big pharma, and I saw a lot of um, hard things to see. Like the veils were lifted in terms of what was real, what was not real, and what was in integrity. And so I grew up with Oprah. I was raised by Oprah. So Marie Diamond was one of the guests on Oprah. And I got to know this work through the law of attraction, through that doorway very early on. But I realized I've been doing this since I was a child of growing up in a home where I needed tools to feel safe and to feel in control and seeing that I was doing feng shui all along. But it was really when I hit my professional rock bottom, my Zen teacher said, "May your suffering be the catalyst for your awakening." And I truly feel like I was suffering so much at work that I was doing all the things. I was going to all these nice retreats and spending all my bonuses to deepen my practices at the time because that was the only thing that was really serving me. But it was really this practice not only it gave me a permission slip to get back into harmony and flow, but also back into my intuition, which is really the only thing that made me a good management consultant in the first place, was that I could have spidey senses and feel the room. But it got me back into my creativity, which I feel like is one of the many doorways into God, and just really deepen my relationship with the earth, which as there being a big pharma where a patient healed can be a patient lost, I found that this practice is really bringing us back into nature, which is the only thing that really heals. And we also are working with the unseen, which is another powerful force that in our society, we've really been. I was actually at an event last night talking to another spiritual entrepreneur of like, we've been whitewashed of this ancient wisdom. We don't have it in our day-to-day conversations. And so I feel a responsibility to also share this, to bring us back into this wisdom. And after spending thousands and thousands of dollars on personal development and really like reaching outside of myself for answers, I feel like this practice also brings us back to ourselves, knowing the truth is always within. And feng shui just gave me more tools to see everything in our space as really our unconscious mind. Feng Shui is all about symbolism, and I'll dive into that today. But really being able to see this as a tool to deepen your personal practices, very much like meditation or yoga, to see Feng Shui as something that you can do every day to heighten your own intuition and your own creativity, and also just feel your energy shift, because that's really what Feng Shui is as well, is our ability to have permission to feel, let things speak for how they feel versus how they look. And we'll dive into all of that. But just knowing everything in our environment is speaking to us, and it's subliminal, it's unconscious, and it's also affirming our worth and our values. And our space is just mirroring so much. So I want to really offer today, we'll dive into an overview of Feng Shui. I'll do a little deep dive into your personal energy directions that I know I was able to send a few of you ahead of time. And then also how you can start to deepen your own practice to use this daily, kind of even sweeping your porch like the witches used to do, right? It was like a daily practice to say out with this and in with this. So I feel like this work really is so magical. So I'm really honored and excited to be sharing. And speaking of magic, I did want to start with magic being believing in change. And I've seen this support my clients. I've seen this work totally for myself as I've completely professionally reinvented within the last couple of years. And I really owe it to Feng Shui that it is like this Times Square billboard of our space. And our identity gets to shift as we start to be more intentional with what's being mirrored back to us. And so believing in magic is believing in change, right? And you can even see the be leaving, like be living. And so it's a living and the chi of life force energy, which is changing like an angle of the new direction, right? So I see this work also as miracles, or as A Course in Miracles would say, a shift in perspective really is the miracle. So I just want to set the intention that I hope to offer some shifts in perspective today. And I want to encourage you too to drink water as we're talking, because we're going to be talking a lot about energy and just, I see you, Anna, already on it. And just talking about energy starts to shift energy. And also Feng Shui is really, the more I've been working with it, it's like working in the quantum field. If you're familiar with Dr. Joe Dispenza, it is taking what's in the quantum and bringing it down into the 3D. So just even talking about energy, it moves. So yes, move your body, drink lots of water, and also, support deep breaths and the water, as Feng Shui literally means wind and water. So we get to honor those elements as we dive in today's session too. And again, please pause me at any point if you have questions. So I want to just start by rooting in again, before we dive into the actual content, the serenity prayer, because I feel like that is what this practice really is in times where we can be, doing all of our work, our journaling, our affirmations. And sometimes it's just the wisdom of what we can change, which when I'm feeling stuck, this has always been a practice that I have deepened and offer the people that I work with to, it is the one thing that we can change. So knowing that sometimes I find my best answers by doing this practice too. And I think it also just gets us back into our personal power. And when we feel, there's been many times in life where I didn't feel like anything was showing me the respect that I was deserving. And I found that in my space. And so I feel like there's also just a call to action here of this practice, helping us get back in our power and control the things that we can change. So what is Feng Shui? By show of hands, who is already like familiar with Feng Shui or have worked with it before? Wonderful. Okay. So it's It's over 4,000 years old, and it really was from the Chinese philosophy and the shamans working off the land. Feng Shui literally stands for wind and water, like I mentioned before, but it's all about the way the energy is moving in the space, and moving through your environment as it represents your life. And so at its core, it's really creating this balance and harmony. We'll talk a little bit about the yin and the yang, but it's how things are flowing through your life and how easily they can flow. Again, in Feng Shui, they say the home is a body that holds the body. And so if you think about traditional Chinese medicine or acupuncture, this is basically what we're doing in the space. And so today we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive to understand the different elements, and how you can start to see those elements in your space, and really also seeing your space as a 3D vision board to start to align your space with goals, and things that you want to attract, whether it's like a professional reinvention like I did, or relationships, or you're just feeling stuck or stagnant. And being able to work with this energy allows us also, when all five elements are in harmony and in balance, our nervous system really drops when we walk in. I'm sure you've all experienced walking into a space and feeling like, your body tightens or you just naturally relax. And so again, it's not just the way things look, but it's how the energy is responding to your own nervous system. And so really small, like mindful changes can lead to really big shifts and how we show up day to day, because when our energy is different, we move different. Um, so again, this wind and water and the meaning of feng shui, but I take it a level deeper because I see wind representing spirit and water representing life. And so I see feng shui also as deepening or reclaiming a spiritual life, which is moving and accepting with what is. But there's, I grew up on the water where we were on the water very often, and sailing, and there's also a level of acceptance. And so yeah, I love this from just the deeper wisdom within the wisdom. And to share in feng shui, there's three types of luck. So, and the Chinese believe that they're influenced by heaven luck, earth luck, and man luck. And so heaven luck is the astrology, our human design. It's what we're born with. Um, you don't have a lot of control. It's like basically your soul's curriculum. Then there's earth luck, which is or man luck, excuse me, and or woman luck is really like the attitudes, the mindsets, the actions that we take. The it's like the I Ching for the superior man. It's working with the coaches. It's reading the books. But the earth luck, which is the other third. And so the philosophy is like, if you have reasonable astrology, you weren't born in a concentration camp, and you're doing all the things, you're in the programs and deepening your practices, and things still aren't moving along, that's where earth luck comes into play. And that moves us beyond the other third, the last third, to kind of tip it over. And so being able to work with your earth luck, which is feng shui, and this is the science that really offers, the guidelines of where we eat and sleep and work, and just maintaining a harmonious landscape within our physical and within.
I love this explanation, Elizabeth. I've never seen, like I said, I've only ever done like surface level feng shui, meaning like reading a 8-step blog of like, do this, change this, like, not deep. I really like this, whatever this is, this symbol, this analogy, that yeah, it's really helpful. And something else I wanted to point out when you said, feng shui is meant to be like flow. It's this flow, it's this dance. It can change. I just wanted to point out, and I don't know if anyone else grew up in a home like this, but like I grew up with a mom who, like, my mom was, perfectionist, people pleaser, and she was very rigid, and the house felt very rigid. Everything had to be in a certain, like, it felt like the opposite of flow to me. But, thinking back, I'm like, I will say, I think that's how she maintained control in her mind. It worked for her. So also, if down the road or whatnot, but if it comes back around to when we're applying feng shui principles, how do you do it in a way with a family or with multiple people in a house so that it feel, you know what I mean? Like in some of those common spaces, like, not, this is irrelevant to, not that I'm going to back live with my parents, but I just mean, even in my current home with my husband and my son, I'm guessing we all have our different tendencies. Just a question down the road of like, can you apply the principles when you're living with family, when you're living with multiple people?
Absolutely. It's such a great tool. What I'll actually, that takes me perfectly into, first and foremost, naming the different lineages of feng shui there, because I think that's really important, especially as a woman, white woman, honoring this work. There's landscape, there's compass, there's 8 mansions, there's Tibetan Buddhism, there's the Western school of Feng Shui, there's the pyramid school, there's Black Hat. I mean, there are many. So you can get very lost in all of them. And I got lost in YouTube University years ago. Just need to choose one teacher, and that was with the 8 mansions. So that is the lineage of feng shui that I've done the deep dive with, that I'll be sharing with you today. And in the 8 mansions, we use your birth date as it's called a gua number. And to me, that was way more personal than maybe the more Western schools where you might have been seeing like a map that you just lay over your house and these directions. And we do still practice that, because what that's doing is that very much in indigenous or ceremonial spaces, you call in the directions because each of the directions have a spirit of their own. And so we're doing that, but we're doing it in a more personal way, that just like your astrology, your destiny, like what you were born with, we use that to understand. Basically, there's East people and there's West people, and I'll go over this today. But to answer your question, to bring everybody into the mix, we look at everyone's personal energy directions and see how they overlay with each other. And it's a great exercise, especially with couples or with families, to talk about goals and what's most important to us. Because I'll share with everybody here the relationship direction, your wisdom direction, your success direction, and your health direction. And you can also see it almost like a wheel of life of what's out of balance, what needs to be more in balance. And so it's a really beautiful way to bring everybody into the conversation of what is the support that they're needing and how can we activate the space to support them with where they're at.
That's so cool. I love that. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. And so this is what though all lineages of feng shui have in common, not to overwhelm us, but it's the flow of energy, the way things move in your space. The most common thing is if a flood was to come into your home and the water was just to come on in, the idea is, just like when we are living off the land, that the water would come in and come out and not disrupt anything. So how the energy moves in your home, just like feng shui, meaning wind and water. It's also, if you were to visualize water coming into your home, how easily would it come in and come out? And so that is starting to see the chi, or this life force energy, this prana, this ocean air or mountain air, wherever you are in the earth, start to move in your space, and how it moves in your space and how easily it can move in your space. There's also the balancing of the yin and the yang, which is the universal symbol that we know that one can't have one without the other. But in feng shui, like for example, my bookcase is you'll see squares, and then you'll see like circles above me. And so it's also starting to take in a space of how balanced is it from the masculine and the feminine, and the masculine being the squares and the feminine being circles. And so you could start to just even look around your space. And if you just want to start there, of the masculine also being darker colors, blacks, and the feminine being lighter colors, and just seeing the balance and the harmony of the yin and the yang in your space. And then compass directions, like I shared, all lineages use the compass directions. What we're going to deep dive today is both the 5 elements and your personal energy directions, which is what differentiates the 8 mansions lineage. So I'll pause there. Any questions or thoughts? I'm also not looking at the chat, but I see. Okay, great. Yay. I'm glad you're here, Anna. Okay. So like I shared, this is the universal symbol, and just again, starting here is a good place just to, if you were just to take inventory of circles, squares, these 2 opposing forces and how they balance each other out, and just really this concept that everything in the universe contains both of these, and even like hot and cold and day and night and health and disease, and just starting to see how that lives and breathes in your space. And the thing that we'll focus on today is your personal energy directions. And so I know, Susan, I shared yours this morning. Were you able to receive, did you see that email?
Yeah, I did. I didn't read it fully. but I was able to skip over it a little bit. Yeah. Thank
Okay.
you.
You're welcome. Yeah, so you have your directions, and Michelle, I know you have yours, and Maria, so we can talk a little bit about that today. And yeah, happy to share yours with you, Anna. I can follow up right after this meeting. But basically, with your energy directions, so I wrote everybody's down. So Michelle, you're number one. So you're your element is water. And we're gonna talk about this because I'm gonna start to explain how you can not just take inventory of these directions in your space and basically getting your compass out and just first seeing what is in these directions. Like I shared in some of the emails, like if there's a trash can in your success direction, just noticing that and really starting to take inventory of each of these directions in different spots of your home too. So in your living space, in your bedroom, in your office, and then with knowing your personal energy directions and then also knowing your elements, then we can start to design the space with those elements in mind. So Maria, you're the connector. So you're number 8. So you're earth. And the colors of earth are obviously earth tones. And then seeing which elements feed you and which elements balance, or they say deplete, but that really is just like traditional Chinese medicine. This is actually from my acupuncturist because I use her handout because it's way more, but in this presentation, I'll share, you might have seen this before, but once you understand your element, you can start to see how what creates and what destroys or brings into balance. And so we can start to design our space with this in mind by understanding what our elements are and how to start to see them in our space. And so, for example, let's see, let's do a real example. So, so you're the wealth. Michelle, will do you. So you're water. And so understanding like curvier shapes, the colors of black, and then or also blue, dark blue is another color for water. And what feeds you is metal. So having understanding that circles, whites, metallics, mirrors, that is an element in your space that feeds water back for the universal symbol. And the elements that balance you or deplete you is wood and earth, because wood sucks up water and earth also sucks up water. So these are the more like depleting. And so to be able to then balance your space, that all 5 elements are always represented, but just noticing the squares, noticing the rectangles or the columns, and how that can start to balance out the space. Yeah. Do you have a
Oh,
question?
wait. So I just realized, oh, so there's a shape here too, right? Based on, okay. I might have been, okay, gotcha. So fire
There's
is also like triangles are helpful or
exactly.
when, okay, gotcha.
Yep.
This is wild.
Isn't it? It's kind of like you start to really and this was what's beautiful about this work is it deepens your awareness, which is consciousness. And as our consciousness rises, our circumstances more favorably change. And I believe this is, Feng Shui used to be only kept for the elite. And there really is like a certain level of like being able to see everything, but just starting to notice in your space what elements are represented, even outside of just the masculine and the feminine, but also from the 5 element perspective and how they can start to feed each other, in addition to activating your personal energy directions. So many squares in your house. Yeah, so it sounds like you have a lot of earth, which is
depleting. I'm looking around and I'm like, oh my gosh, we have this like these 2 rectangle pictures here and like everything's a square like in this room.
and so again, this is where the intuition starts to come in of even with your, your energy directions, taking inventory of those and understanding the symbolism of them. Like for success, we obviously want something like having Oprah in your success corner or the colors as well. So we can activate with colors and the directions, but also know that depletes is a really strong word. For example, I'm fire and I take showers at night. And it's also like you got to see it as it's balancing. So it's not necessarily bad, but it's what you need. And that's where things like muscle testing and your intuition can start to come online by designing a space that is taking you where you want to go and not where you've been. Because it is, again, this like Times Square of what it's mirroring back to us, and if our space is mirroring back to us our past, or is it mirroring to us where we want to go? What does Aries mean again on this page? Where? Aries.
Like wood, it
Oh.
says areas, family, wealth. Yeah.
Yeah, those are so that's connected to the different directions. So the areas are, I didn't include that in this presentation, but basically family and wealth is the east direction, health and knowledge and helpful people is northwest. And so each of these have a direction. So I'm overlaying two topics basically.
Okay. So Elizabeth, if I'm understanding correctly, kind of. um, okay, so it said I'm 8 and 8 was earth. And then and then it was like fire is whatever, like activating, and metal and wood were depleting.
Or balancing.
So, or balancing. So in general, I mean, so you're saying kind of in general, technically you're going to include all the elements on some level in your home. But then because I'm earth with this kind of fire can be good for me element, it's like basically, is that saying where it's like, so I might tend to have more of the earth and fire things in my home or something?
So basically, great question. When we design your space, we'll start with the earth element. So whatever element you are, we'll just start here and
Okay.
we'll see. And so we'll first take inventory of your earth elements in your space. So your earth tones, the squares, and we'll just see how much of that is compared to your triangles, your shady, and like colors as well. So being able to take in the tones. And so that's where it gets really fun from an intentional design perspective, because you can kind of think of like a design board that just has a few different layers because it's
Okay.
personal to you and
Yeah.
energy. And so we would then go from earth to taking inventory of the metal, and
Okay.
then the water and the wood, and then we'd start to cross over and design your space with these elements in mind. But basically, because you're earth, this is where we start.
Okay. Okay. And then am I oversimplifying it too much to then say, because I was earth, because I was 8 and on that one graphic, that like overall, I don't want as much metal and wood elements in my home. Like I want some to balance, but it would be like a problem if I had too much metal and wood. It'd be like, well, I don't know if that's supporting you. Is
Well,
that oversimplifying or?
no, it's not at all. And there's no perfect feng shui, but
Mm.
what we get to do is we get to really determine how you are doing in your space and then design your space to amplify that.
Got
Because also you may notice when I send your personal energy directions, you may notice you've already activated them. Like I see that time and time again, like people are facing their success direction in their office intuitively, because it's going back to how babies find like places in their cribs and animals just know where they want to sleep. Like we're more
Yeah.
intuitive than I think we give ourselves credit for. And so it's being able, you're not oversimplifying it, and in a way but what I would double click on that or like double down on is first seeing like how are you doing in your space and what is showing up in your life that
Gosh.
then we can see in the space. because I think that's such a different, I didn't say this earlier, but another reason I got into this work is because after years of leadership coaching, I just noticed we were stuck in the stories and the maze of our mind. And I needed something tangible to like have evidence of like, let's just look at this and stay with this because this is here.
Yeah.
Versus like we're very like wiggly. And so I think really taking inventory of how our life is and what may be out of balance in our life, and then being able to see that in the home, be able to do the remedies, this ancient wisdom feng shui remedies, and then see the life also change, which you could throw feng shui out the window. It's really the unconscious mind. And
Yes.
we're working with like our beliefs, and we can find many of our beliefs in our sock drawer, like in the little nooks and crannies and the closets. And so it's really starting to work with that too.
Okay. Okay. I love that. Thank you.
Yeah, these are all great questions. Any more questions? Okay. Well, again, this wisdom is very, very practical. Going back to even the back of the home. I won't go into this today for time, and but you know, having the tortoise in the back of the home. So you want ideally something higher in the back of your, even if it's a building or, but this was just so practical because it protected them from the Mongolian winds when we were like living off the land, and having, you know, the phoenix rising when you enter your house. So being able to feel like you can fly out into the world. And so having like 5 to 10 feet that you can expand your wings, or even like start to visualize that, but just really starting to see the home as you and what is happening in your inner landscape. And also even, you know, back to no perfect feng shui, and I'm certainly far from perfect myself, but it is a practice, and I can start to see where my energy is off when my home starts to feel a little out of balance. And even this morning, I was doing my own personal practice even ahead of teaching this work, just because I know it's my energy. And so just seeing it more as a moving meditation, and not seeing it as like, oh, I have to clean, or but starting to see it as like a powerful way to move your own energy, and to start to also, from a neuroscience perspective, connect new neural pathways of making new connections and being able. I have a background in Gestalt psychology, and that's really all about like staying with until something transcends. And so being able to stay with like my silly habit of collecting so many bags. I don't know how I take reusable bags. I don't know how I have a stack of them, but whenever I'm feeling a little like I need some therapy, I'm also in therapy, but I use the bags as a moving meditation to almost commune with the spirit or the energy or what inside me needs to hold on to these, and like being with that long enough that it gets to transcend. And that's where this work gets to be very much holistic and deeper than just surface level, because we get to stay with what we might be holding on to, and where that might be also showing up in our lives in terms of a fear or scarcity or lack. Okay, we're gonna do a quiz. Make sure everyone's alive. Are we here? We're here. Yay. Okay. So give me in the chat, thumbs up, thumbs down, good feng shui or bad feng shui. Or you can also, it's just a small group. You can come off mute. Tell me why. Okay, I'm seeing some.
I was trying to figure out like the little gesture on my thing, but I'm gonna say this.
Okay, we got 3 thumbs up and 1 thumbs down. Anna, do you want to tell us why thumbs down? Oh, I don't think you're on mute.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Something about like when you enter through the doorway, it should be like that wall behind it is what made me think it was bad, and maybe being able to see through it.
Great. Yes. Yes. A glass door So I actually did a workshop just the other week, all on the front entrance. And if you are to start anywhere in your feng shui journey, not just with the personal energy directions, but really focusing on your front door, because in feng shui, that is the mouth of the home. So just like our physical mouths of like what we put in is what we put out, and having some spiritual hygiene, right, around the front door, you can start to see it that way. And so this mouth is almost like, this is it's just coming through, so I'm just dressing it, but it's like someone with no teeth, because it's been, the energy is able just to come on right through. And if you really think, I mean, this work is so sacred in so many different cultures. You remember, I grew up in colonial Williamsburg, and like there was like the mud room, or like in castles, there's always like these in-between spaces, because it was seen as a very sacred portal that you're now entering into the inner world and the outer world. And it's like your boundary of the outer world. And even if we talk about like magnetism, it's how strong are our boundaries, which is really when our energy isn't so permeable to what other people need. And we're able to have like a secure, nobody's coming in here unless they're invited type of, and not from a protective energy, but just having a solid front door is a feng shui best practice. And you can really start to feel how protected or contained you feel in your home. Things that are also best practices is like repairing lights, and you don't want any cobwebs, or, and also what's not also great feng shui here is the cactus. And because everything in feng shui is symbolism. And so while it's pretty, it represents protection. I mean, if you just think about even, oh, okay. Hi, welcome. If you think of in nature, going back to nature and nature's wisdom, it's pointy to protect it. And so technically this would be from a symbolic perspective, not a very welcoming home, because, or confusing, because there's like a, come on in, anything's welcome. And then also it's like protective with the spikes of the cactus. And so, yeah, just be really intentional with even the shapes of the leaves that you have in different areas of your home, or the energy of the plants. Also, just a small side note is you can see there's like a little bit of like trash, or always keeping that clear and clean. And also another best practice is to have a welcome mat that's larger than your actual door, just from like almost kind of like a royalty, right? Like you really start to think about this work as you are the king and queen of your castle. And so designing it that way, or working with the energy of it that way.
I love
Okay.
this. So like big doormat or whatever to like welcome people in. Best practice having like a solid closed door. Like we have like a glass window part, but then there's like a solid, back door to it. Clearing the cobwebs of the area. And then, yeah, did I get the big ones, I think?
Yeah, I mean, really thinking of it of like you are welcoming in this universal energy. It's the where abundance is. And so you want to take in your front door of like, would abundance be like energy attracts like energy? Is this front door going to attract, what is it saying? And you start to just like even go outside and close your eyes and see everything for the first time, like as if you're like a shaman yourself, right? And really getting super intimately connected with the symbolism of what your front door is saying, and then working with that energy as a practice, because there's no perfect feng shui. And actually feng shui doesn't even recommend that you tear everything down overnight, because it's wind and water and we have to flow and move with it. So
Gotcha.
making gentle changes is the doctor's orders.
I love it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for chiming in. It's fun to engage. So yeah, okay, here we go. Another one. What we got? Using the side door. Good feng shui or bad feng shui? We gotta, okay. Got some strong, Michelle? Okay. Great, you guys nailed it. Yes. So if you are the king and queen of your house, if you use the garage, which is so common, especially in America, we park our cars, and then even worse, there's usually a laundry room, which is like a more draining energy. So we take this fresh mountain air, ocean air into a garage, and the side doors represent, back in the day, it was the door for servants. So we are subconsciously having the message that we, and sometimes we are the servants of our life, but we want to be, again, as much as possible, using the front door just to feel that type of king and queen energy. And to, if you go to Costco or something and you need to use your side door, by all means, because we have to do that. But just knowing that the chi really comes in through the front door, and the more that we can use that entrance, we get to amplify that. So I was even guilty of using my side door because it was so much more convenient to walk my dog. And then when I really started practicing this, it's like you have a different energy when you come in and out of your front door. Anna,
Question?
yeah.
Oh yeah. So okay, side door. We don't have a side door, but what if we tend to use just the garage door? Because yeah, like the garage is usually open. One of us will, we'll have just parked our vehicle in, and then we keep the other side usually empty or whatever. And so we tend to, when we're just kind of coming in and out, then like weekend or whatever day, we tend to just come in through the garage, the big garage door, and then there's a little door right there, and we tend to use that. So like, is that, again, not that we're saying anything's good, bad, or whatever, but like, and maybe, to be honest, we've kind of like done little things to make that entrance feel more homey, even like, so yeah, would it just be kind of like looking at the feng shui of that door in the garage to enter the house?
Do you have a front door?
We do.
Here's what I would challenge you with, is do an experiment. Like, this isn't gospel, but I do believe that this is a great way to deepen our awareness. And if you want to experiment by using your front door for the next 10 days and
Mhm.
just see if you feel any different,
Mhm.
I would love to hear how that goes.
Okay.
Because even when I hear you say making the side entrance like more homey, what I'm hearing, and it doesn't necessarily have to be true, but like we could just be in a phase of just accepting the servant door, if you will, of just
Mhm.
making that as comfortable as possible, versus, really taking the few extra steps to at least like feel the energy of moving in your front entrance and feeling like the king and queen of your space.
Yeah. Okay. I'll try that out.
Okay. Anna, did you want to chime in of what this explains?
I'll just throw out very quickly. So our front door has like the glass, and that we've always had a lock on because my son is like young, and so he'll just like run out, open the door for anyone, or run outside. And so we'd have that, and then the other door bolted, but like never used that unless guests were coming in. But there was a very much, when you were talking about that, I was like, there's this energy of like, this stays locked, this stays closed. And I was like, oh my God, this explains so much about like, right, abundance and all the things like that we're calling in. And also it's like a very small, like dark, it's like the darkest part of our house. And we've been using our garage entrance, which we hate. It is the laundry room. Even that, the energy is like dark and cluttered. And I was like, damn, like we've just spent the only door, interestingly, which you'll be curious, we can talk about the back door, like because it opens up to nature. I was like, this is the only door I actually really want to go in and out of. Because inside it is open, and outside I was just like, oh, like, oh, so many light bulbs.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing. And that's really what this work gets to be, is just new neural pathways connecting, and then being really gentle of where your intuition guides you, of like where you want to start. Just to, again, like Maria, like being our own scientist, and just have a hypothesis, and then if I do this, then does this shift? And that's when I think also life just gets to be a little more fun and magical, back to believing in change and shifting the energy. Oh, okay. We're going to a new home in a new city. Let's go. Let's pack the bags. Okay, this is the last one. Is this entryway good feng shui or bad feng shui? Okay, we got a good, we got a bad, we got 1, 2, 3 goods, no, 4 goods and 1 bad. Okay. Well, Anna, you won the quiz. Yes, and so even though it's very common to see this and be like, well, everything's contained and everything has a place. But really, when you think about being the kings and queens of your life, the shoes at the front door is one of the ones that you can really work with, or shoes at any door, really, because, you know, again, we don't have servants, or some of us may, but we have to be the own servants of our life. But when the shoes start to stack up at the front door, it is not really the essence of royalty. And you can kind of, you know, start to like feel into that these people would not have shoes at their front door, and everything would be contained. And the front entrance really is this place where you come in, and of course, if you like, you know, want to have some very tactical things, but the one rule of thumb I'd always give is just make sure that energy is moving every day and nothing sits there for longer than a few days, because that's stagnant energy. And back to it's like having something in your teeth and not moving it. And so again, just thinking about the hygiene of that space. And also, regardless of where our financial status is, I love this work because it allows us to feel into our royalty, regardless, because it's innate and it's within. And so we get to really design our spaces with as much integrity and like a king and queen would, regardless of what our bank accounts are mirroring back to us. And I think that's also a tool for manifestation, and just also for integrity, that again, if I'm leaving you with any point, you are the king and queen of your house, or all queens here. And so yeah, just having that. I lied, there is one more if you want to play one more time. Okay, good feng shui or bad feng shui? Bedside table. Okay, we got a no. We got no. Okay, we got 1 yes and 4 no's. So ideally, we do want to have both sides of the bed available for the king and the queen. However, I've seen this, oh my gosh, just recently, a couple that was going through a divorce, and I could see it in the space, back to everything being symbolism. The one partner had a ginormous bedside table and the other person had nothing. And it was so symbolic of the relationship. And so whether you're in a relationship or not, really ensuring that there's harmony in the bedroom is so important. Just back to not only the yin and the yang, but that there isn't one person that's like taking up more space than the other person, because I see that time and time again, that's also symbolic of the relationship. And so having 2 bedside tables, but as much as possible, having those in harmony, or as equal as possible, is a really, really great best practice. And yeah, yeah, sorry, I saw clutter in the chat and I was like, also, yeah, that's great. I think that was for the last slide, but for this one as well, clutter, anything by your head when you sleep. If you just think about even the act of sleeping is our body rest and our subconscious goes into a realm to work itself out. And so you want as much as possible not to have anything beside your head. A strong headboard is really important. That's another thing that this bedroom is missing. Ideally wood. And in the bedroom, you want as much as possible earth tones and elements. So bringing the earth, because the earth is what grounds us, so that our body can relax and our unconscious can go do its thing. And you just don't want like things like books piling up that you're not reading. Unconsciously, that's sending a message of you're not getting things done. and it's harder to sleep. So just ensuring, just like the front door, that also beside your bedside table, that you do not have things that are like stuff in your teeth that are just staying there for days. Like, so you really want to keep that energy clear. Yes, I think focusing on the bedroom and the front entrance are two of the most important places, and being able to use your energy directions. And yeah, I'll start to close just to leave time for questions, but just honoring this work is it really is the law of attraction in your environment, and seeing it as just like we take care of our physical bodies, that this is also a body that's holding you, and seeing it too as like we get to be able to start to change our circumstances back to the serenity prayer, and having something actionable and tangible, and just seeing also what comes to you of like being in the process. I just saw that quote recently of like, what if it doesn't work out? And it's like, it's not about it working out, it's who you get to become in the process. And I see this work very similar, of we're less attached to the outcome or the manifestation, and it's more of like the hygiene. Even therapy itself, I see things very visually, intuitively, and I see therapy as like taking everything out of the closet and deciding what we want to keep and like folding it back, and how of a therapeutic process that can be. Like the example I used with just my bags, and like sitting with the part of myself that has been unconsciously holding on to these bags, and sitting with them and talking with them and honoring them, so that we can really truly create different habits. And I love when we start to really design our space with our habits in mind. So looking at our wisdom direction, and being able, if we have a meditation practice or a study practice, being able to really work in that space to deepen our goal, which is rooted in the habit that we are creating. Yes. So I'll look at the chat. This is practical for optimal. I'm not familiar with optimal. Maybe that's
Oh no, I think she means like, I think if I'm understanding you right, Tiki, I think she means like like being able to moving it from practical, just having the space be practical and functional, but like even optimizing it with the feng shui.
wow, that is brilliant tagline. I love it. Yes, that's exactly what we're doing. Sorry, I didn't connect those dots. And crystals by the bed, depending on what crystals they are, and also depending on your energy direction. So you'll see in the report that your health direction is a supportive direction for you to rest your head. And based on that direction, there's different colors, and even what I was saying earlier, which might have been confusing looking back on it. I hope I didn't confuse you. But for example, the Southwest is love and relationships, and like a rose quartz would be really supportive. So crystals do have energy, and so do plants. And so, but if it's supportive and activating your personal energy directions, then I would be all for it. And again, you get to be the scientist. And so that's the fun part, is I always muscle test with my clients before we make any big change, because I don't work as I am the expert of you. I work and I am sharing this, and you get to feel into what's right for you, because I think that's really when we get our power back. So in your case, we could look at what the crystal is and also what direction it's facing, and feel into with a muscle test if that would be supportive for you or not, and then get to hypothesize and try it with or without. Keep Shugnite, Selenite, and Rose Quartz by my nightstand. Oh, okay, same thing. Yeah, and if it's supporting you, and I mean, those are very protective energies. And so and that's the thing I love about this work too. It's all about intention. And so if we are placing it there with the intention to protect us, I believe that because like I shared in the beginning, there's so many different lineages of this work. You could probably find something to tell you something that you'd want to hear. And just like there's so many doorways to God. And it's really our own, you know, what our intuition is guiding us and telling us that trumps above all else. And even in 8 mansions that I studied, we activate these energy directions, but most important is that we feel in our power positions and really being able to take in how we're positioning ourselves more than the remedy, if that makes sense, which I think is also so symbolic for life. I know we're getting close on time. So the last thing I had was just these examples of like a child sleeping in this bed and not being able to sleep, or having, this is a IKEA, I think a very classic IKEA, like above the bed, and having that be like, that's a lot of energy above the bed. And so there's just, I have so many different examples that I can go through of just more of like the Times Square of New York of our space, but I'd love to just to pause and answer any questions.
I
Yeah.
was gonna say, so Elizabeth, I'll pause you one just because while I'm still recording, if you want to share first with the women here how they can work with you, where they can go to find you to learn more, I'll get that on the recording, and then I'm going to hit stop, and then I'm actually going to make you host, because if you do want to stay on and answer a couple more questions, you're more than welcome. But first, would you like to just share to those live and catching the replay, how can they find you, how can they work with you? And then, yeah, I'll also make you host as well.
Sure. Thank you for that. Yeah. I wanted to offer this 50% off. I'm going to do it till the end of April of
Thank
if
you,
you want to
Elizabeth.
go deeper. Yeah, I'm happy to do like a personalized session where we can use your energy directions and really go room by room and do these remedies, do these activations, but also really by looking at your life and what wants to shift and being able to design it with that in mind. So you're welcome to check that out. Or on Instagram, I am Elizabeth Armstead, and my website is elizabetharmstead.com, and continuing to be updated. So yeah, if you have any questions, and I think in the chat link there was the to get your personal energy directions. You can fill out that form and I'll send them over to you. I'm always happy just to discuss too if you have questions.
I'll drop that in the chat link again. Elizabeth, thank you so much. We greatly appreciate you. And this presentation was amazing. I'm going to hit stop record right now.